Hi everyone, good morning. Hope you all are safe and sound in this pandemic situation. Today we are going to discuss on atheism and the role of religion in human life with special reference to the poem Church Going written by Philip Larkin. So friends, what does mean by atheism or being atheistic? Actually, atheism is the absence of belief in the existence of God or deities. The word atheism was originated before the 5th century BC from the ancient Greek word ethos, which means without gods or God. Priestley's letter to philosophical unbeliever, written in 1782, is considered to be the first published declaration of atheism in Britain. So now we know the literal meaning of atheism or being atheistic. So, what is the role of religion in human life? Or what is the main purpose of belonging to a religion or belonging to a caste in the society? Man can live as man without a religion also. So, what is the main purpose in belonging to a religion? Religion actually helps in creating an ethical framework and it also acts as a regulator for values in building values in day-to-day life. It helps in character building of a person. Religion also acts as an agency of socialization. It helps in building values like love, empathy, respect, and harmony between individuals. It also helps in spiritual connect. Now, what does mean by spiritual connect? Actually, nowadays we know that people are always on the quest of fulfilling the economic and material needs in day-to-day life. It is the religion which plays a crucial role in establishing our connection to the divine power and developing the belief that there is a supreme energy that acts as a regulator in our day-to-day lives. Thus, we always pray to God through our prayer, chants, hymns, etc., which creates a spiritual bond, which in turns result in a spiritual connect. This is mean by spiritual connect. Various writers have wrought about religion and atheism in their work, and such a writer is Philip Larkin, who brought the broad concept of religion and atheism together in his agnostic work known as Church Going. And he is regarded as a agnostic poet, English poet, novelist, librarian, and his full name is Philip Arthur Larkin, lifespans from 1922 to 1985. He was born on 9th August 1922 at Radford, Coventry, Warwickshire, in England. He is regarded as movement poet. His famous poetic collection include The North Ship in 1945, The Less Deceived in 1955, The Whitsun Wedding in 1964. Most of his poems includes the passing of time. Now we'll move on to church going. The poem was published in 1954 in the poetic collection The Less Deceived, written in the form of dramatic monologue. The poem deals with the question about the importance of holy place like church in the life of modern man. The post-war era after 1945 was marked as the decline in the Christian values, morality and spirituality. Church going is set in mode of dramatic monologue in which the speaker of the poem, who is Larkin himself, shows the worthlessness of the church. The poem clearly depicts the social scenario of the post war era when the attendance of the people had declined in the churches. The main theme in this poem is religion, But through the depiction of the church and the visitor, Larkin highlights us some of the main characteristics of modern man. Larkin also reveals many modern or postmodern characteristics of poetic genius like satirical tone, mocking tone, ironical statement, usage of imageries, agnosticism, skepticism, secularism, rationalism, direct language, melancholic irony, common and worldly object, universality, and usage of dramatic monologue. Through these modern poetic techniques, Larkin dealt with the main issue of his age, which highlights the vacuum and chaos due to secularism, atheism, and agnosticism in European society. So now let us discuss about the atheism and the role of religion in human life with special reference to the poem church going. The poem begins by the poet entering into the church after clarifying that there is no ceremony or anyone in the church. It shows that the poet is visiting the church not for praying, but only to see that what is inside this church which attracts people to come and pray here. Through these lines, Larkin actually tries to mock the modern man who visits church weekly for nothing. This is the main feature of secularization, which means that nowadays the people who go to church is for just as a visitor, not as a worshipper. In the succeeding lines, we can see that the first word, another, depicts that the poet has already visited some other churches also, and he has a habit of doing so. And for him, all churches are same to each other. The poet also claims that there is silence and stillness in the church which can't be ignored. This perception highlights the materialistic approach of modern man. That is, in the material world, in the day to day life, it is full of busy schedule, and people are people are shattered around here and there. A busy world. So when he approaches a silence church, he was feeling a little bit disturbed. After that, we can see he take off his cycle clips due to some respect, but it is in the form of mock reverence, and he enter into the church. In the next lines, from where I stand, the roof look almost new, cleaned and restored. Someone would know I don't. When he enters into the church and recites some verses of the Bible in the style of the priest to mock in the contempt, moreover, instead of looking to the Jesus, he looks at the roof of the church, which appears clean or repaired to the poet. But he is unaware of the fact. This gesture shows that he is not a regular visitor of the church and busy in his mechanical world. Through the succeeding lines, here endeth much more loudly than I had meant. The poet speaks loudly, here endeth, that his voice echoes back in the church and disturbs the silence of the church. This word has another meaning too. That is, there is an end to the church going, and the speaker of the poem announced it in a loud voice because it shows that the poet as an agnostic and secularistic person. The lines I sign the book, donate an Irish sixpence, reflect the place was not worth stopping for. At the end of his visit, he donates Irish sixpence, which had no value at that time, and it seems useless to donate this amount. Then the poet confesses or admits that now there is no need to stay here because it gives no benefit to him, but The curious thing is that he still visits the church often in order to satisfy himself or deceiving himself. Further, in the poem, we can see that the poet asks some question from himself about the fate of the churches when they will completely fall down and when people stop visiting the churches completely. Through the next lines, when churches will fall completely out of use, what we shall turn them into, if we shall keep a few cathedrals chronically on show. Then the poet gives answer to these questions with different suggestions, which reveals his internal materialistic approach. He says that some churches would be converted into museum with some ancient holy manuscripts, or it would be rendered to rain or nature for free in order to give ease to the people. So, through these lines, we could see the poet's agnostic view about church, religion, etc. Through the lines, or after dark, will dubious women come to make their children touch a particular stone? So, after this question and answering part, he asks another question and gives the answer by himself. The question is about the superstitions because obviously, when the real purpose of faith goes out, then there is much place for superstitions in the society. He states ironically about those superstitious women who make their children touch stones to have better future. But the poet says that the time will come even these false beliefs and superstitions will vanish from the society and no one will go to church and the churches will consider out of use. The poet has another question that when these superstitious beliefs too shall pass away, what will happen to the churches? Now we could see a shift in the tone of the poet. The lines are, I wonder who will be the last, the very last, to see this place for what it was. As I told, there is a shift in the tone of the poet from comical, satirical, and ironical to a serious tone. The poet wonders that who will be the last one to visit the church, originally for the purpose of worship. Is it those who come in search of antics, the researchers, the one who is habitual to visit the church on Christmas as a festival, or the one who really come for religious purposes, or is it him? Finally, to conclude his answers, the poet says that even though the churches are both dusty, unclean, and ghostly, people will still come to the churches because the most important events of one's life are celebrated here, like birth, marriage, and death. These events are very important in humans' life so that churches will remain alive, at least in the minds of human beings. At the last of the second last stanza of the poem, the poet confesses that though he is a skeptic or agnostic, but still standing in the church gives him peace and satisfaction, because it is the place of God, not a place to be mocked at. So, at last he realizes that the churches are a place of God and not a place to be mocked at. Through the lines, it pleases me to stand in silence here. A serious house on serious earth it is. In the last stanza of the poem, the poet concludes that church going will never end and find its resolution when he says that the bond between God and people can never be broken. The environment empowers us to find our philosophy of life, if not from the church, then from the church graveyard, and we will find that our final destination lie here beneath the soil. This ambience promotes us a serious thought into a life. The church will perform its duties even in the future, and give wisdom to the people to change their fate and destiny. At last, the poet reasserts his faith on religion because he has come to know that religion guides us in our life and shows us the way which is good for human beings. Even though the poet who is said to be agnostic himself finds relief by shoulder of religion. Though in the major part of the poem the poet shares his atheistic view of church and religious institutions, at last finds his reason for regular visit to the church. I hope all of you got an idea about atheism and the role of religion in human life, with special reference to the poem Church Going, written by Philip Larkin. Thank you.